Hello everyone, how are you doing? Hope you're having a great day so far. It's going to be a lengthy video, rather lengthy video. So I just finished doing a demo for Assembly 2023 Summer Edition. Assembly is a big demo party happening in Finland for many years now, quite a few decades since the first time I've been there. Quite a few, 2 decades. And this year they had a fantasy console demo competition for the first time. And for you who don't know what a fantasy console is, it's like a machine but made completely virtual. So they come up with the specific specifications for the machine in terms of limitations of pixels and resolution and what the sound can be. And it sort of emulates the feeling of working on old machines, on retro computing machines. But with a modern tool chain, so you can use modern languages and you can do those kind of things. So I've been doing a lot of things for TIC80, as you probably know if you've seen my website before. Yeah, you can download TIC80 on tic80.com. I did a few things about that. I did videos on how to use the tracker. I did some size coding stuff. And when I was doing a demo for revision a couple months ago, one of the scenes that we used was a demake from another demo. So what a demake is that you try to redo under lower constraints, limitations of the machine. You try to do something that you've seen elsewhere. Usually you see a lot of demakes of games, like a game that was released for Windows. It's been demaked for the Commodore 64 or demaked for the CPC, or just demaked to have a 8-bit look and feel. So those are what's usually called a demake of something. So on the zombie robot demo that we did for revision, Evil Paul, one of our collaborators, had demade one of the scenes from Lifeforce, which is a very famous Andromeda software development demo that was released at Assembly, precisely. And he demade that scene, and that was like the climax of the demo that we did. And shortly after we finished that demo and all of the aftermath of doing that project ended, we started talking that maybe we could do something for Assembly, that it could be interesting since they were announcing the fantasy console demo competition in particular. We had to decide between Pico 8 and TIC80. We ended up deciding on doing something for TIC80. And then we went for this concept of doing sort of zapping channel thing that referenced the different channels, and each channel would be either something nonsensical or a meme, like something referencing Assembly in particular. So we would get like the votes of the people who have been to Assembly many years, and they recognize things and they will see the joke behind that. So that was the point. We were trying to win the compo specifically, directly. That was the main objective. We're going to do a big demo, going to have a lot of different content in it, and it's going to be nonsensical, and it's going to be fast-paced and funny, and referencing a lot of stuff from Assembly, because that's what wins competitions at most bigger demo parties. So yeah, we went for that concept. We started laying down a huge list of references of stuff that we could include, a lot of random sales channel, usual stuff that you see on TV, with a lot of references from Beavis and Butthead, from Science Theater 3000, from what's it called, Rick and Morty's intergalactic cable thing. The idea was, characters watching something and reacting to that. And we had the greatest segue into that, which was to pick up one of the most famous Palm scenes with Mr. Qrxw, known as the intro is known as Deeper Meaning Behind of a Tunnel, or Deeper Meaning of a Tunnel, and reuse that concept, but instead of being just the guy explaining, that a tunnel is a strawberry and that the palm is banana, we could have like that be the basis of people reacting to the stuff that they're seeing on this fake TV channel zapping session. So we ended up with this idea of having a school of Mr. Qrxw's minions, children, relatives, whatever they are. And, you know, in the beginning, you see him teaching them, you know, sort of explaining, okay, this is strawberry. And like some of them get that it's strawberry and some don't agree that it's strawberry. And then after that, they have like each of the scenes, they react on their own. And, you know, if someone says banana, the others will say banana. One of them will be the antagonist and just say kiwi because he doesn't like bananas or something like that. So nonsensical at its base, but following the same look and feel of that character. So that was one of the first scenes that I did for the demo, trying to recreate that 64K, even though it's not released at Assembly, it's released at another Finnish party, but it was very iconic, the Palm thing. And at this point, we were still considering that this was going to be a Palm Megademo, like involving members of the Palm. The members of the Palm that we were involving suddenly did not have time to work on this demo. I was left as the only Palm member left. And since there were so many other people that were recruited into the project that were not in Palm, we figured that we should have, you know, not call it a Palm Megademo, but still call it a Palm Megademo. So we came up with this idea of calling it the Practitioners of Lua Megademos, which still is an acronym for Palm. But, you know, it's another Palm. It's not the same Palm. It's just me that's on both Palms. So it's extremely confusing, which goes along with the whole concept behind the demo of being, you know, funny, weird, confusing. Anyways, so that was the concept, making a demo for AssemblyTV. If you haven't seen the demo, obviously you should probably watch it. Otherwise, this video is not very interesting. And this video is going to be about going through it scene by scene, explaining the architecture of the whole demo itself, and explaining the different parts, and not just going into the technical side, but also going into the creator side of things. So if you're like interested in making a demo, but you don't know how to start or where to start or how to, you know, keep the ball rolling after you have an idea, I hope this video becomes useful in explaining some of the ways that, you know, as more veteran people, actually there were quite a few newcomers involved in this demo as well, but at least I'm an old comer, started on the demo scene in 97, and actually one of the first demos that I did was called Psychic TV, which was, my nickname back then was Psychic Symphony. PS is short for Psychic Symphony. And it was the first demo that I did. It was sort of a zapping thing. So I went back to my roots and tried to recreate or reinvent the original concept and adapt it to a modern setting, to nowadays things. And I'm very happy that we won the compo. I think everybody loved the demo. So that was really cool to see, and the effort paid out. For those wondering how long it took to make the demo, so we started thinking about it after revision, and the work only started picking up in the beginning of June. I started doing some boilerplate stuff in the beginning of June, gathering the team, and then I think the most work started really going faster after Nova Demo Party. There's a lot of the recruiting happened at Nova Demo Party. A lot of people involved in the TIC 80 were doing stuff for Nova. Most of them are British. And I was waiting for them to, you know, not have any stress left from doing a lot of entries to convince them to join the Megademo effort. People who were already in the team back then was me, Evil Paul, and Keneal, which was the original team from Zombie Robot. And they both of them agreed to do that, but then both of them slowly started noticing that they did not have, you know, time to do that, and they also wanted to do a Micocom demo for Assembly, so they both ended up not doing that much in the project, but they were both originally on the original discussions when we started doing the list of scenes and thinking about the different things that could be featured. They were very present on those discussions. Then I got Yobe on board as well, because I love his Pico 8 stuff and I wanted to collaborate with him. So I tried to convince him to do some stuff for the demo. He only did a couple of things at the end. He didn't have time for more stuff, I think. But I'm very happy that we got to work together on something. Then I got Metrotronic on board because it's a very long time user of fantasy console stuff. We're a bit, we're friends, we're rivals, so it was cool to make something with him as well. And I also used him as a recruiting officer at Nova to talk other people into the project. So we ended up getting Gigabates, we ended up getting J-Truck, Gasman. ToBach also became involved, but then he was too busy with doing stuff for Evoke, so he didn't really have that much time for things. Who else was on board? I'm missing other people for sure. I should probably take a look at the list. That would be smart of me. I asked a few more people, but some were doing stuff for Evoke, or some were doing stuff for Assembly, or just didn't feel like participating. We got Super Rogue involved as well, because we've been trying to make a TIC80 demo together as well. We got Sule, which was a very good acquisition. He's a relatively newcomer to the demo scene, but he does both graphics and starting to get to grips with learning to code. So he did quite a few things on the demo. We supplied a lot of graphics for different people, either vectorial or pixel art, and he did his own scenes, just him coding as well. So it was really cool. See some stuff from Sule. Tried to get Yaska from the original Topom involved, but he was just launching a game at his game company, so he ended up not really participating much. Dave84 also got involved, tried to get Hoffman on board, but he didn't really have time. Violet Raccoon was also on board to do some 3D stuff, but also ended up not having time to do anything. And then when we were desperate for sound, we got Genio on board to help finish up the audio for the stuff. And I only asked Genio at the end because I know that he hates TIC80 tracker and he hates doing music for the TIC80. So I was avoiding asking Genio, which is my usually go-to when I need music for demo scene projects. But yeah, I had to bother him in the end to help do some sound as well. Yoba did some sound, just one or two things. Gasman did a lot of the sound. Genio did a lot of the sound. And I did some filler stuff as well, reusing some of this SFX. So yeah, that's the intro for what we did and how the project started getting together. Sort of had an idea of the whole thought process behind it. And as different people joined the project, they had ideas of their own. And it was pretty much decided on the onset that, different people would do the different scenes, whatever scene they were most interested in doing. And then they would send me the scene, the TIC80 card with the scene, and I would just integrate it into the main project as I had done with Zombie Robot. So this is probably the time where I should explain the architecture behind the project. So I will switch to this view. It gives a nice overview of the architecture of the thing. So this is the main loop, the main file where everything is, the main logic is defined. Everything else is just scenes ad hoc to this, and there's like a common file, a common.lua that includes functions that are shared between the different scenes. But this is the main scene. Has some macros defining for the bank switching, and I will talk about bank switching soon. Has some variables defining things that are looked up every single frame, which is the time that we're on, the road, track, and pattern of the music playing routine, which you can do a peek to get that information out of. Then we have to know if you're playing music or not, and for some housekeeping, we need to keep track of what bank we're currently on and what track we are currently on. And the current scene ID is a similar thing. It just tells you what scene we are currently playing, and the scenes are indexed by the order in their lists. We have a very long list of scenes here, as you can see here. And each one of these scenes is defining what function to call when it's initializing. Like if there's any special variables to call, anything to initialize, palette to change, whatever, it does it on this initializing function. Then the frame is the looping frame that it will rebuild every single frame. BDR is the function that you can use to do stuff per line. It's similar to scanline, but using just, it's called BDR. I don't know why. I think it's called border. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that later and what that is useful for. Then switching the banks. And this already starts getting in depth into the TIC file system. So on TIC 80, you have multiple limited space for the different kind of things. So, and this is where this comes in handy here. So you have a certain limited space. Actually, I will change the view to this and show you the TIC file format, I guess. So this is the TIC file format. So each cart on the TIC file has these sections, this chunk of things. It has the tile information on the tiles, which is what's going to be drawn, on the sprites, on the map of the thing, which we don't really use for demos, but it's very useful for games. On the code, the flags that it uses for stuff, the samples, waveforms, palettes, music, patterns, screen itself, and then some binary data that you can also include. So you can see a lot of different chunks of things that can be used, but all of them are limited to a certain certain size, a certain limit of file size. So what happens is that you can have 8 banks available. Overall, if you use the pro version of TIC 80, you can switch between them, and I can show you real quick here. I would have the TIC 80 button. Oh, I forgot to resize this. Okay, there we go. So here you see a TIC 80 open, and you have a different stuff, and you can here you can switch the banks. So for tiles, these are the tiles, and if you click here, you can go to the sprites, which is this one. In case it's on bank 0, it's empty for our case, and the tiles always have the fruit emojis that we use to do we call them fruit salad response, the different fruits possible. Also a sprite that's used specifically just for the Oki scene, and the logo that you see at the end of the demo is also stored here. And you can see that we still had some empty space and stuff like that, because we use some other tricks to load data into the TIC 80. You can switch banks, for example, go to bank 1, and you can see here that you have other stuff, including the data for the second reality scene. You know, his head is mirrored, so you only need half of it. The bottom part of the face is also mirrored, you only need half of it. And this noise here is actually the data from the sample that is played. You are not an atomic, or I am not an atomic playboy. There's a special sample playing routine that Gasman has, and it needs to load bytes from somewhere. Could load from memory, but it decided to put the files, the data into the pixel buffer of some sort. What we do is that we try to, overall on the demo, each scene should only use the sprites section and not the tiles. The tiles would always be reserved for showing the fruits, because we need to show fruits on every single scene and use the default palette. So in this case, when we switch to this bank, we only switch the graphics, we don't switch the palette. So we use the original palette for the tiles, and we use the switched palette for the sprites. That makes any sense. Similar thing for this second bank. It's mostly used for the bowl from the Saint scene. This palette is like completely I just threw a few colors here just to see that the data is there, because it defaults on black, but it uses the default TIC 80 palette, so it doesn't matter what palette is here overall. So yeah, these are the only bank switching that we use. Everything else, all the other data is not stored in the banks at all. It's stored directly in code, in the variables in the code, and I will show you to them later on. Then we also have all the different sound effects that you can use, and the different tracks that you can use, also filled with different frames for different stuff. And we have 3 banks full of different things. So yeah, going back to this view. So yeah, when you are, for each scene, we define what bank it will use. If there's any need to switch banks, we have the mask here showing the stuff, and it's just an OR between these macros, finding what you need to switch. I'm gonna scroll down to show you an example. For example, here, we switch for the sound effects and music, this one in particular. I find it interesting that it's not switched back here and it still works fine. So, okay, that's interesting. Anyways, for each scene, you list the initial function, the function that is going to be called to initialize the effect, the function that is going to be called every single frame, the border function, the bank switching ID, the bank switching mask, which is an OR of the different macros, what track it starts on, the music, and what pattern it starts playing. So for example, for the Testcard scene in particular, and for those who don't know what it is, I'm going to show it to you. And it's this one. So for the Testcard scene, it uses bank 0, and the track is on the track starts on track 4, and the pattern starts on pattern 14. And I will show you this on TIC 80 so I can explain the rest of the architecture a little bit better. So going back to the TIC 80, so track 4, bank 0, and track 14. So you can see here, this is the sound that will be played on that, and it's just a beep, and just for 16 rows, because it's a very short scene. This is the total thing that is being played. It's just beep, and it ends. So, and the important thing of showing this is that you can tell here from the frames how the architecture works. So per scene, I define what bank, what track, and what frame it will be played. And it starts playing from there, and as long as there is something else happening below, it will go there and keep going. And if there is nothing else, the track system will know that it's playing frame 255 instead of frame 15 or whatever it is. And the system will know this and skip to the next scene. So that's how we handle the scene skipping. So this was useful for us in particular, so we could switch things around easier. Like if I was not happy with having the test card in the beginning, and this happened quite easily, I could just, copy paste this and paste it down below, and we would have a scene rearranging immediately done without having to change anything on the sound side of things. So that's good. It has some flexibility on one end. It has the downside that for making music, it was a bit complicated, but it was, I don't know, how can I say this? Making the music for the demo would be complicated either way. Either you would have to follow the sequence specifically, and it's a bit limiting on TIC 80 when you have a lot of scenes that you want to do. And also, if you want to skip, if you want to use different tempos on different scenes, then it becomes really hard to do because there's no easy way for you to change things. You are limited per track. You are limited on the number of rows and the tempo that you have. This applies to all of the frames on here. So if you go sequencingly, you would have to keep using the same number of rows or the same number of tempo. And for our demo in particular, that wasn't very useful. So for Robot Zombie, we sort of used that. We used 3 tracks only, 2 of them in tempo 120 and 48 rows. And then the third one was different tempo and different row size. But I would still have to do like a manual check of when the patterns are ending, and then stop the music and start playing the music from the next track on this specific frame. So there is always some code that is required to manage what music is playing for what scene. Usually on video games, which is the main use of TIC80, you just have a certain loop. So if you are going into, the intro scene, you play this music on loop, and you don't care about that. When you're going to the next scene, you stop the previous music and you play this next music from loop. So they don't really have this need for having a full, very long sequence of things that is traditional on-track music. They only want to do short sort of loops, and that's why they have so many tracks available. So many tracks, it's 16 or 8 actually, the maximum number of tracks available before you have to switch to another bank. But yeah, you have 16 frames that you can use to rearrange things. So yeah, you can see here different things that were used for different scenes with small variations on them. Yeah. And a few scenes that are a bit longer, they have doubled the number of rows. Some of them had to be trimmed down later on. For example, this one plays for 4 patterns. 2 patterns. 2. 3. So yeah, it depends on the scene specific and how long the scene is. So yeah, you define the length of the scene by the number of frames that you can play here. So this is how I know how long the scene is. If there was nothing on frame 1, the scene would be just 1 frame of audio short. So yeah, and I know it's confusing to call audio frames and to call rendering frames. This is the name that they gave them. We usually call them patterns on the tracker software, but on TIC80 they call them frames because, I don't know, reasons. So yeah, going back to the notepad. So yeah, this is the main definition per scene, and the way that we did things was people would send me the cart, would open the cart, I would transfer all the music that was required if it was music was done aside, so it wasn't really the first thing that I would do. Usually I would copy the code into its own Lua file, and I will open a Lua file here so you can see what I'm talking about. Like on the source, for example. Well, we are on the Testcard, so let's show the Testcard code. So, very basic scene. Initialize function. You have a global variable to define when the scene is starting. So if you have like some progression that needs this kind of initializing code, you already have it there. Sweetie16 ini function is a global function that initializes the Sweetie16 palette and also makes sure that there are no color changes, replacement. I don't know the official word for it, but you can tell TIC80 to use this color instead of that color. That screws up a lot of things. So also I fixed that, and also if you change the offset of the border to doing like wobbling effects or something like that, this function also resets that, so it looks, the next scene will be like clean entry, clean slate with all the things that it needs. Just initializes, it switches the banks. Let me show you the main code down here. So when you're starting a scene, we define the thing, we switch the banks that are required to switch. We play the music that it's supposed to play, and then we initialize the scene. So we call this function in particular. And then for every single frame, while we are playing music, we will call this test card. So this is essentially the tick function that we have. So test card ini is pretty much the boot function if you use that on the basic cards, and the test card would be the tick function that exists. We have this specific function here called time check, which is a patch that we needed to include, and we only include it on this first scene. And what this does is it was coded by gigabytes. There was this bug on the Mac and Linux version and the browser version of TIC80 Where if you're calling the tick function, it uses too much processor or something like that. It slows the whole thing down. So all the timing becomes screwed up. And that was actually one of the issues that happened with our demo, with Robot Zombie demo. We developed it on Windows. On Mac, it was bugging out because of this bug. And it was recorded by the compo team on a Mac. So it was shown with this bug, and half of the scenes were like screwed up because of that. So Gigabytes thought of a way to check if the timing is going off or not, and if it confirms, it checks, I think, for 10 frames or 10 milliseconds, something like that. And if the timing is off, it ends the demo when it shows you a message that, you should probably play this on a non-bugged version. And this bug has been found and it's been reported. If you use the developer version for Mac, it's fixed. But if you use the official version, it still has this bug. So yeah. Anyways, Testcard. This Testcard was actually borrowed from another of Yobe's demos that he released, I think at Inércia, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Lovebite. Maybe Lovebite Battlegrounds might be more accurate. And he started this demo with this Testcard thing, and we sort of reused this for the assembly demo since Yobe was part of the team. And it's pretty much just drawing the different shapes that show up on the thing, and printing assembly on the middle of it. And then you have an overlay defaults thing, which is the TV ID, the TV channel ID that shows up on the top left of the channel. I'm gonna show you how that looks like this. So yeah, so this is the TV channel ID. It says the number of the channel. It says 4-letter words informing what the channel should be, and it just draws the different shapes around. And yeah, it's pretty much the only thing in the scene. It's just a small test card. And we have the noise thing, which I guess I should talk a little bit about. So the noise thing was made by me. Where is, what do I call it? Noise switch, here it is. I'm gonna show you the code real quick. It's very basic code. I just put a grayscale palette on it. I throw per frame, I'm throwing random dots of noise, so it's increasingly amount of noise. It starts from the previous image that you just saw, so it retains like on old phosphate TVs, you would have like this bleed of the image that was currently there. So I try to retain that concept a little bit, and I just throw random noise on top of it, and at the same time I'm distorting the hell out of the scan lines with some sine function, so it looks like it has some sort of sinusoidal sweep, which makes it look like a noise. And then you have the noise sound bursting as well, which complements that feeling. I actually played this function on the developer version of TIC80, and it looks weird compared to what it does on the official version. I don't know what they changed on the developer version, but yeah, I need to figure out what's up with that and try to make a fix if I want this to be future compatible or retro compatible or something like that. Anyways, that was this second scene. And after the noise burst, we have the cow TV. This was pretty much so this scene was repurposed from a demo that I did for Mountain Bites, where I figured out some routines to procedurally generate a cow. I did a little optimizing to that. It uses the copyrighted ToBach's grass on the background on multiple layers. Has a lake, as also that is dynamic. And yeah, the idea when I originally was doing the Mountain Bites intro was that I was doing a procedural cow. Procedural in terms that I just say how big it is, and it creates the whole cow. And Depending on the noise seed that you give it, the spots are different, or it has some little differences, like the ear color can be different as well. See it like here. And depending how small the cow is, it renders slightly different, because, you know, the circles are using the circle function from TIC80. So if it's slightly far away, it looks more like a cross instead of a circle. If it's very far away, it looks more like a dot instead of a circle. And I had to fine tune it for being, you know, looking good either far away or close by. And I tried to redo this because I was trying to do like pseudo 3D things with these characters, and I reused this technique for doing humans as well, and for doing Mr. Qrxw as well on the scene. And yeah, it's useful because you can, you know, distribute cows different lengths. You don't have to draw them all, each one, and have that fixed thing, or only have double the pixel art thing. You have some more in-between ranges for you to use stuff at. So yeah, quick scene that I put together just as a filler for the thing. The bird scene. So this was going in line with the CCTV ideas. We had the ideas to do several CCTVs. One with cows, one with birds, another also with sheep that we didn't end up doing in the end. A lot of different CCTV things. So this one reuses some stuff from ToBach, but it changed scenario a little bit. So this is supposed to be like a pigeon coop of some sort, and the birds are there cooping, and the camera is just, you know, looking at the birds. You see here like a city background. So the idea is that you have a CCTV channel on your TV that you just zap into and see stuff like that. And it also makes fun, or plays along with the concept that AssemblyTV had during this before on Twitch. Before Assembly has any events happening, they have a live camera just showing the hamster pit of their pet hamster, the hamster that is in their office, which is the Muffi TV camera. And so yeah, I wanted, since we included that as a scene, I wanted to make a little reference to that. This scene is the infomercial, was made completely by J-Truck. We had the idea of, we had to explain the limitations of the TIC80 so that it would be more astonishing, show that we are breaking those limits. In terms of 16 palettes used, and then we start using stuff that has more than 16 colors, graphics that are limited to just, you know, the sprites and tiles, and then we start showing graphics that are full screen. And maybe these limitations didn't come across so well. The bubbles were a bit fast to see. There is no direct impact with that, but the scene was so funny, and it connects with the whole TV zapping thing of, you know, you're watching TV and you go into the sales pitch thing that's, you know, selling you some weird stuff, you know, knives or whatever. In this case was fantasy consoles. So yeah, that's what the scene is about. Two guests explaining fantasy consoles, and then they cut into the expert of the scientist explaining all the different things of the thing. And the scene was so long that we had to edit it into multiple smaller scenes and just redo the stuff. The Hesburger scene. So this looks like a very basic scene, but like all of these graphics, they don't exist anywhere. They are completely vectorial. So Dave84 did a tool that converts from Inkscape SVG format into, it exports into Lua vectors, and then he has a vector drawing routine. And he did this specifically for this demo, and one of the first scenes that he did was the Hesburger thing. So he redid the logo, and then we can do, you know, different things with it. We can even do it 3D and stuff like that, rotations, and you'll see some use of that later. Here we just scroll the image and just looks solid. And if you know the limitations of TIC80, this looks impossible to do, because the TIC80 image size is 128 by 128. So either you use both the sprites and the tiles, and you have to compose the image, or you would have a lot of hard time managing the process, or you have to figure out a way for you to, you know, hand draw all the different things, but then you notice that the R is different from this R. So it's like, it's not a font that's being used. And even if it was a font, this is like way upscaled to be a font. So it wouldn't fit the limits of the TIC80 machine. So what we do is that we load the vector data into the code directly. So it's not being stored in the card memory, it's stored in the Lua variable memory. So yeah. And the Hesburger is a very, for us that went to Assembly so many years, Hesburger is the main burger place at Assembly, and it was present at the hockey arena there. So we had to eat Hesburger to survive for many times. So it has a big Finnish influence. Music was done by Yobe for that one. This one, the weather channel, this was actually reused from a demo scene report. Super Rogue did this effect, making a joke at ToBach, actually. He redid this spiral tornado thing from a Atari demo, I think. And he added ToBach's grass demo, which was, it's a bit of a meme that we have on the fantasy console scene. We call it the official copyrighted ToBach grass, because it was ToBach that did the original routine, and then we reuse it in all sorts of places. Whenever we need grass, we use ToBach's grass, because it's the best grass out there. Also the only grass out there, only the grass routine. And there are stickers of it available as well, like official ToBach grass, and with the code of how you can implement ToBach grass correctly. So it's a whole joke around that. But yeah, so he did this scene for demo scene report, and I used it like once, and I recycled here because we needed some filler scenes. So we did like a weather report sort of thing. And I did a little noise sounds to have some audio for this. And this was a pretty decent filler scene to just, show a bit of what the fuck is happening here on the beginning of the demo. Scientist explains a little bit more things. All of these little scenes were all made by J-Truck. He did the script for the guy talking with the bubbles. He did the scenes. This was the scene that I made, recreating Muffi's channel on Twitch. And actually, this is a ridiculous amount of effort for a silly thing that it is. Like, I took a screenshot of the thing and I tried to recreate it as faithful as possible, like the logo back there, but half cropped because it's not well centered, and some wooden things in front. It's missing some wooden things here in the back, which I just got too lazy to do. I used some ellipses trick to do like these step things. I reuse the same for the bowls in the floor and for the here. I do a lot of clipping to make sure I have this ceiling here. So this scene took way more effort than it should have been. I just wanted to have another reference to assembly, and I ended up spending so many nights just doing this scene and, copy pasting some text that was actually there. I have no clue what this means. I didn't bother translating it. I just copy pasted it there. It's exactly the same as it was on the live stream. And because the color of the text is slightly different from the other one, all of these lines were printed one by one. Like all of them, print this in purple, then print this little bit in white, print this little bit in white, print this other one in white, because there's no line wrapping in Lua TIC80. Well, you can do a /n and it will be a line on the left, which is what I did for all of these, 5 lines here. But for the first one in different colors, you had to, check if it's starting exactly at the correct pixel that it should. Which was annoying, but it's part of the thing. Also, the text showing up is exactly, well, not exactly, because it was too big to fit this scene, but it's very similar to what shows up. Like this would show this effect, tickets are selling, act fast, and then it would wrap up. Repeat some of the scenes, the rest of the part of the scientist as well, which became one of the main parts of the demo. Then we cut to the Mr. Qrxw's scene, which is him referencing the original Topalm demo, and showing the different channels how you should react. When it's the palm scene, it's a fig, and they reply, "Oh, it's a fig. No, it's a banana. No, I think it's a kiwi." And he goes, "Oh, tunnel effect. Oh, it's a starfruit. No, it's a banana. It's a strawberry." And then we have a plasma effect. Plasma is apple. No, it's apple. No, it's blueberry. So yeah, nonsense, but it sets the tone that now when we see these emojis, we know that it's these guys commenting on what they are seeing. So that was the concept. This title screen was made by Super Rogue. I had a title screen that just said the palm. Is actually the first image that you see here. This one. I had a wider version of this, and this is why this shows up. It was one of the things. Like the beginning, the first attempt that I did to do the introduction for this demo was ToPalm presents a ToPalm Megademo made with some extra members from other couple of people. It's called the AssemblyTV ToPalm Megademo. And then it was a bit boring and it didn't really make much sense. We ended up not using it and using this weirder setup instead. But yeah, that was the original thing, but it was a bit too basic. So Super Rogue did another one and we ended up using it, which is this one that you see here. So another iconic thing from AssemblyTV is the kill all audio and art and kill all audio and lights scene. There were different infomercials made throughout the years. And was one of the first little Tux penguin with some sirens, having a very good time. And then suddenly the organizers tell you, kill all audio and lights. And if he doesn't comply, he will get severely punished. So yeah, I tried to remake and people shouting Amiga because the compo of our Amiga is about to start. That was the main point behind having the Amiga as an fruit emoji that you could have. This scene is replicating Stars Wonders of the World by Nooon, which was released at Assembly in 1995, hence the number here. And this scene is an iconic scene where you had a 3D scene of a bee and it showed that the number of faces that it has. So this was groundbreaking back then on a 386, 486 PC because it had so many triangles, so many faces showing, and it still had full frame rate. Here, the challenge for the TIC-80 is that this image is impossible to store on the memory size of the card. So this image was converted, and you can see some bugs here, like some green pixels, which it's very hard to see, but there are a few green pixels there. It was converted to an array, and even the conversion tool that existed at the time, made by Deca, TIC-Mactile, is limited to 128 by 128 because it tries to export into the card memory where you should have, your graphics. And I did a hack of that tool to export directly into code and to go beyond the 128 by 128 limits. So I wanted to do like massive things scrolling, and I spent maybe a week developing that. I had some issues with the RLE encoder. So this is like raw data. It takes a lot of space because it's not encoding properly. Could very well be optimized, but this is using my hack of Deca's conversion tool. Because Deca's conversion tool is limited to 128 by 128. It's a new version of the tool called Multicolor, which has some special new things where you can do some special trickery from Multicolor, which we also wanted to use on this demo. We ended up not using, and I'll explain that back later, but still has a limit of 256 by 256. So it's still, if you want to have things bigger than the screen resolution, you still need to do some hacks to that. Maybe in the future, there are other people working on different things. I heard the Watcher was working on another conversion tool as well. And Deca was sort of involved in the project, but very later on because they were also doing something for Evoke, which was just 1 week before Assembly. So they didn't really, the whole of Rift, Mantratonic, Deca, and ToBach, and J-Truck as well, didn't really have that much time to work on this mega demo. They were mostly busy doing stuff for Evoke. Anyways, iconic scene from Nooon. Another iconic demo, DaJormas Saint. This was remade by Dave84. Had some frame rate issues that Gigabytes later updated, but it's cool that it has like the flash when the bull is moving and stuff like that. It's really cool as well. Porrasturvat. So this was an iconic game that was released at Assembly way back when, 2002, I think it said here, 2002, yeah. And the concept was using rigid box systems to detect physics. So you throw a man down the stairs and it would roll different ways, and you would score the highest if the man would, travel lower or do the most maximum damage falling down the stairs. For several versions of this, it became a meme at assembly, and this was remade. So the physics here are not being calculated real time. They are pre-calculated by animation. This was done by Gasman. He pre-calculated, I'm not sure where I guess on PC, maybe on JavaScript. And then he just stored a very long array of the data, replaying the position of the different vector parts. I guess triangles, everything is done with triangles, I believe. But yeah, so this is an animation, pre-calculated animation, basically. Chimera, another demo that was pre-selected from Assembly Demo Compo and ended up being a cult classic. Very ambient, dark ambient demo by Halcyon, using this very palette thing. Was the first scene that Yobe picked up, was the only scene he ended up doing at the end. But he did this whole triangle rendering routine for that, and with different depths, and using the special palette with the reds to have this depth of thing. I ended up doing the music for this. Gasman also had done a music for it, but I had this little blip, 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 blip sounds in it that fit a lot more with the original Halcyon Chimera demo. So I ended up using my version of the sound. But yeah, another cult classic. And we're starting to get into a little bit of a trope that we show a lot of demos that were disqualified or not played at assembly but became classics. DaJormas Saint was disqualified, Chimera was disqualified, and we'll play another one, I Feel Like a Computer, which also ended up being disqualified or pre-selected. Well, I Feel Like a Computer was disqualified. The other ones were pre-selected, like not shown. This scene, this is not referencing any demo whatsoever. It's just we wanted to have a Moomin scene because Moomins are very big in Finland. They come from Finland. And Sule wanted to explore doing animations using ellipses. So he was doing this for 2-3 weeks, a little bit at a time, adding a lot of different details. And he ended up even adding a scroller explaining that, this is completely made with ellipses. And yeah, nice little scene. It's a lot of small different details like the reflection here, rocks, grass, hills, all sorts of different things. So a lot of details like the shadow, also really cool. So yeah, a lot of attention to detail went into this scene. And some people think, oh, this is referencing the Planet of Leather Moomins, but no, there's no demo of the Planet of Leather Moomins that is this exact scene. This is just a scene that Sule wanted to make. And for us, it's fine because, nonsense in the demo, and it's related to Finland, so it makes sense to have this kind of nonsense. Then we have the remake of I Feel Like a Computer. Gigabates wanted to tackle this. He completely remade this, and it's exactly like the original. It had some issues in terms of frame rate. But other than especially on when the rainbow showed up, but he optimized it a couple of times. It ended up being okay. When he added the music, he had more frame rate issues. He had to remake that scene a little bit. But it's exactly like the original. And we even put like the little, I have to hide myself here. We even put the little meat emoji, like the dog itself speaks, that is only used on this scene because it's the reaction to the dog. You would say meat instead of saying a fruit. So yeah, we're very happy with the scene, looking really cool. Genio did the music for this one, using some of Gasman's sound effects, I believe. And I did the fade out on the music, the filter effect on the music when it goes down, which was just basically playing everything at lower volume, pretty much, when you go underwater. So yeah, really happy with the scene. We also showed it to I Feel Like a Computer guys, to the Melon design guys. We actually, in the beginning, we wanted to make fun of this and have like huge disqualified showing at the end, to make Jan, but Melon design guys were a bit, they weren't very happy with that idea. So we ended up deciding, okay, let's not go there. Let's just remake the demo and that's it. Hesburger again, because why not? Hockey scene. So hockey is very big in Finland. They're crazy about hockey and they hate Swedish people. So we decided, okay, let's also Assembly was hosted for many years at Hartwell Arena, which is this big hockey arena. So there's this very big connection with the hockey. So yeah, we decided to do a scene about hockey. Was listed on the thing. Here we see that Sweden is losing 3-7 against Finland. One of the first scenes that we tested for the demo was actually part of this scene itself, and it's not the scoreboard. It was this. One of the first things that Sully wanted to do was test doing a vector graphics things. So he did this player here, and Mentrotonic animated the player going up and down a little bit. So this was one of the first scenes, and they wanted to add on top of that. So they put the score, they put the crowd behind it. Then Sule had the idea to also do like a little showing the goal going inside the actual goal post. Mentrotonic did the scoreboard thing as well, so it just ended up being on one of the scenes. No reference to any demo, just because Finnish people are crazy about hockey, and here Finnish people are winning, so we knew that we would have more votes if the Finnish team was beating Sweden. So yeah, we went for that. This one looks very basic, but this is another scene that is impossible to have on TIC 80. It uses vector graphics, so this uses the same tool that Dave 84 used to convert SVG into vector data specifically, and that's how you can do the rotations, because you already have the data ready to be changed, altered, affected, rotated. There's a proper word for this, which I'm not remembering right now. Using math, but with already, because otherwise you would have to do them by hand, and it's so much text to do that to do it by hand would be crazy. Also, you have some curves which are notoriously annoying to do by hand, so it was easier to do a conversion tool from SVG into a Lua format, and just do that. And then a little background effect to make sure that it looks hot and sexy. And yeah, another filler effect that we had. And the rest of the information, because we wanted to have the information of about the TIC 80 on the scientist, but it didn't fully communicate everything. So the rest of the information was sort of listed here. I think overall it still doesn't come across, because it's shown so fast that if you're not a known user of the TIC 80 platform, you still don't know the limitations. So we didn't quite reach the original objective that we had, but it still does the entertainment factor thing, so we still included it. So the scene dedicated to Lenu of Accession. The music, this is not from any specific Accession demo. We converted this image of Lenu, which has the Amiga thing. Lenu is very big Finnish demo scener, which died a couple of years ago. They had like a moment of silence for Lenu at Assembly once as well. It was a very big character of the Amiga scene and of the Commodore 64 scene as well. Candidate to political party as well. So just a big character, a very big known name in the demo scene. And there's this saying that they usually say is just greetings to Accession only, fucking Stulamers. So we had that rolling down here. Secret part on this, if you look at the code, it says fucking Stulamers and to Miku.com for bailing out on the project last minute. You never see it on the scene itself. The scene cuts before then. But that's the secret part that is there. Also, this effect that you see on the background, mimicking the original Commodore 64 and Amiga raster bar effect, but it uses the border as well. So that's one of the little things. It was a recycled effect I had already done for last year's invitation that I did with ToBach for Field Effects and Inércia at the same time, double invitation. And we used this effect on the final credits as well. So I reused it here to have this more old school feeling to it. So yeah, the idea was to have an old school sort of homage to Leno, because he's a very big person that used to be an assembly. In 1998, Coma released this Stickman's World thing. Music is a cover from The Prodigy, and this guy just dances to the music. At the time that this was released in 98, this was mocap animation recorded from film and then manually nailing all the dots for every single frame, and then replaying them on a certain speed to get this thing. They later remade the demo for a mobile phone, and that's where we got the data from. We decompiled the Java, we extracted all of the point data from this, we converted it to Lua format, and we replayed this. So both Dave84 and Gigabates were looking into this. Both of them were having the similar approach. Gigabates was just faster, I think, at the end, and we're using Gigabates version, but both Dave84 and Gigabates worked on this. And the music, I think, was made by Gasman. I believe so. The conversion of the conversion. Yeah, and then the guy goes into the dance floor and dances a little bit. We had the full animation available. We just didn't show it for time constraint reason. But on the final version of the demo, we'll probably have maximum possible playing time. This screen also was never shown at Assembly. This is a meme referencing to Inércia Demoparty, the party that I helped organize for many years. In 2005, we did this tour of all the summer demo parties, and for every single demo party that we went, we did this invitation intro for Inércia. We ended up with this screen flashing, and don't forget to come to Inércia Demoparty 2005. I wanted to reuse that as a meme reference for things. It's just a short filler scene at the same time as well, and also reminding you that you should come to Inércia Demoparty 2023. Because we're still organizing Inércia Demoparty. This year should be 1, 2, 3 of December 2023. Hope to see you there. So yeah, try to show up. This was also Gerbera of Moppi Productions. It's one of my favorite demos of all time. Gigabates was asking, okay, I'm done with Melon design, what should I do next? And I said, okay, you can do Moppi, because they're iconic, either Gerbera or IX. Both of them are really known demos that should really be featured. He went for Gerbera, and this is so well done. I told Gigabates at the time, like, you have a knack for demaking stuff, because like the attention with the aliasing, he did a special function just for doing this aliasing cones, and then reuse that, like the attention to detail of putting a dot there, the graffiti on the background, the anti-aliasing on the robot, the little arms, the scratching being on time. It's just so much attention to detail, so much love went into making this demake, which is funny because Gigabates is a relatively newcomer demo scener. I don't know if you watched this demo back then in the days, but yeah, this is really well made. And like the whole animation of the head bobbing and scratching, very on point. And Gasman did a great work with covering the track as well, included some scratching sound effects, which I have no clue how he did. It's magic for me. Would have to take a deeper look into the track to figure it out. This one, made by Unreal Voodoo, also became a bit of iconic. The last Unreal Voodoo demo they did. Dave84 mostly did this. Sule helped him with the graphics. It all started with this floppy disk version. I think he reused this vector graphics thing to just have this floppy flying around. And then we convinced him to add the first part of the thing as well. Music for this part was made by Genio, last minute. And we probably get a more lengthier version of that scene on the final version as well. This is Oprah. For those who don't know who Oprah is, an American known talk show host. And she has this thing where at some point the show gave cars for everyone, and she would say, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, everybody gets a car. And we wanted to do an assembly take on that, which was at some point at Assembly Demoparty, they were giving out fingerprint readers because they had a sponsor of some sort. So everyone got a damn fingerprint reader. No one knew what the hell to use it for because no one really needed it. There were a lot of recycling of fingerprint readers, offering it to other people and stuff like that. So it became a bit of a meme. When you talk about prizes at Assembly Demoparty, you talk about fingerprint readers. So Gasman had the idea to make this, and then he ended up doing the scene himself. A lot of attention to detail on the shapes and on the things. Everything was made by hand, as far as I know. And yeah, a lot of work went to animating this, but really cool. This is the original Lifeforce scene that was already on the Robot Zombie. Here it had to shorten it a little bit. Instead of using 2 patterns, you only used 1. We have music for both of them. I'll probably have to revert to the original on the final version to show the more complete version of this scene. But yeah, originally made by Evil Paul, and yeah, still looks good. Then the iconic Second Reality, I Am Not an Atomic Playboy. Gasman did mostly all of this, I believe. Sule did the original pixel remaking of the characters. It's not converted, it's hand-drawn by Sule. And then Gasman did the sample conversion using his script that he already had used for Mercedes-Benz to convert it, place it around. And yeah, and he also did the roto zoomer and then the lens thing on top. It abuses the. I'm gonna rewind a little bit to talk a bit more about this. Like this thing, this is not trivial to do on TIC 80. You're limited to 16 colors. So for you to have the lens giving another color to the pixels means that for every single shade that you have here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 colors at least, 4 or 5 colors, you need to have them duplicated with a slightly bluish tinge on it. So that's what Gasman did. He took the original palette, he duplicated it, put it a little bit more of a blue tone on it, and that's what he applied to when the pixels are inside the lens thing. So yeah. This scene was made by Gigabytes, recreating 1995 by Kewlers and MFX. Just some voxel effects, some texture look up for the tunnel effect on the background. I had some issues with frame rate initially, but they managed to optimize it down to work okay with the music. So yeah, just basic scene, just a tunnel effect with some voxels. This one, we were in doubt what entry from Conspiracy to do. Obviously, Chaos Theory is the most famous one, but this one, Project Prophecy, was also pretty famous when it came out. Gigabytes made this conversion completely. There was one more scene at the end that ended up being edited out, like a closer zoom in of the planet itself. It's pretty much the intro sequence to Project Genesis. A lot of dithering and stuff, a lot of attention to detail for the original. And then this one, Ceasefire by CNCD and Orange, another classic music, original music by Hans, which was really good. And they used this scene to have the credits on the original Ceasefire demo, so we decided to reuse it for our credits as well. This is what you see here. So Gigabytes made this scene, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And Gasman did the music for it, or music converted for it. And I adapted it to have all the names here with the credits correctly shown. And we are reaching the end of the demo. One last pass at the scientist. So we didn't quite know what to do for the ending. I was just ending it with a noise screen at some point. I wanted to have a scene which was a remake of Orange's Super Television, where Bruce Lee goes, "Wah!" I tried to do that. I converted the image. There were some technical issues behind it, multiple technical issues behind it. One of them was that to have the background be moving like on the original demo, we would need to have multicolor things happening in the background, and there was no one coding it at the time. We were running out of time. This was on the last stage of the thing. So I just converted a static image of that scene. it didn't really look good. Like the original is really pixel art composed. I didn't want to just copy the first one. I converted it instead with the background. It didn't look perfect. It kind of showcased the multicolor conversion tool from Deca that was just recently released. But at the same time, it looked kind of bad. And it was missing the wata sample to close it off, and I tried to convert it using Gasman's tool, and it was just sounding like noise. It didn't sound like any speak thing, and that's because of the limits of the TIC80 chip itself. The sample rate is just too low for you to have widen enough bandwidth or to have the depth that you need to be able to hear speech sample very well. So it needs to be very melodic somehow. And this one was just a very atonal scream with some noise, a lot of noise in it as well. The original sample was very noisy, so it just didn't really work. I tried to convert from the original sample. I tried to convert from samples that I took from YouTube videos of Bruce Lee screaming. Just wasn't working out. So we ended up coming up with this concept that since this guy, the scientist, was such prominent on the demo, it would make sense to make like a joke out of that. So that's what happened. So we're all in the simulation and we are all part of the screen. And it ends, and when it ends, we show the logo. When we were trying to figure out what name we should give the group, Gasman had the idea to redo Tapalm, but with another thing, because the demo is sort of still Tapalm in style, in concept, in idea, but we're not really the original Tapalm. So only I am left from official Tapalm membership, still working on the demo, and we're like 16 people involved in the project at this time. So we ended up coming up with the Practitioners of Lua Megademos moniker, which acronyms to Tapalm. Sule did this little logo. I was originally thinking he would do like a big screen logo that I would scroll into place, and it did this 128 pixels wide thing instead. We didn't really know where to place it because it didn't work as it didn't work on the title screen, because there's like so much things happening in the background. This is hard to read. It's such a fast scene. You wouldn't be able to read everything. So it wasn't really working out. And then I had this idea last minute to just use it at the end as like this, the end piece, which loops back to the original Tapalm thing. Because on the original Tapalm demo of Deeper Meaning of a Tunnel, the final screen is also just says Tapalm. So yeah, kind of loops back into that, and it makes a little bit of sense. So yeah. That's the whole demo. Went through step by step. There are a few things that we used and some things that we wanted to use maybe ended up not using, which I guess I can show you real quick, some links to that at least. So let's go back to this view. So stick file format I already show you. Gasman stick file was one of the things that we used quite a lot to put everything together, and I will talk about that in a little while. Let me just talk about the other stuff first, which is this, the TIC80 bundler. So we tried to use this, but ended up not using it. JTruck released the tool that they've been using to make demos on Rift, and it includes, you can use this tool to include multiple different Lua files into the final cart. And it worked for them because they didn't reach the limit of the cart size. And they also did stuff like object-oriented coding, not just everything into a very large file. When I was trying to adapt that to the scene list that I had and the framework that I had, it didn't really make much sense because we were defining functions and not objects. So and then I would have to copy different ones into a same cart bank. So I wouldn't be able to have just one long thing. So I ended up thinking that I could just do everything using TIC file instead. which is this thing. So what TICK_file does is a script that allows you to read a TICK80 cart and copy chunks from it and add it to another one and save that card. So this is what I do to build the demo. It goes through all of the Lua files, and I will show you the script of that. Where is that? This one. Change view so you see it. So this is the main file Python script that is used to put everything together. So I load a reference music file from the stick cart, from the specific tick cart, and then I load a different bunch of Lua scenes into the different carts, as much as can fit one cart, depending if it has more or less data included on the code. It's how much you can add. And then after all that, one special trick that I need to do was have to make sure that the meta header Lua file was the first thing loaded on the last bank used, to make sure that it would show on the cart file as the first thing loaded, because the way that they load the code into the TICK80 cart is they do it all by reverse order. They start from the last bank and they load all the bumps until you reach the bank 0. We only needed to use 5 banks of code, as you can see here. We were starting to reach the 6th bank, but we really didn't need to. And yeah, the other part of binary image that is being used is the fly from the Nooon. It could have just easily been thrown into the code itself, but Super Rogue's tick cart was already using this as to copying it into the thing, so I ended up using that as well. And then you just save the final tick file, and that's it. So yeah, very handy Python script or Python library that I managed to adapt to put together the process. So yeah. Oof, that's all the things that I wanted to talk about the demo. If there's any question do you want to talk about in specific, feel free to ask on the description below. The code is all available on GitHub if you want to check every single different part, how it looks. We had some issues with some global variables hitting each other, reusing each other codes, some refactoring had to go into that. Like, don't use a global T or don't use a global A variable, try to use something specific. But yeah, we learned a little bit of good coding practices out of that as well, and taught each other about that. And we're planning to do a final version of the demo, including like a trainer scene in the beginning where you can select the different options, having some hotkeys to show the channel IDs and some information of what demo is being referenced. Playing as much playtime as we possibly had, because we had to cut a lot of things to reach the 5-minute limit of the competition. So we will have longer versions. Like if you want to watch cows munching grass forever, you will be able to do that. And yeah, small fixes that we saw, like the head of the Moomin was supposed to bob and it wasn't bobbing on the final version. Small things like that. We plan to do a final version. We also have a final version info file that was, it's not called ordered, it's not called summoned. What is it? Was requested of an artist. They didn't do it on time. They couldn't deliver it on time. So we will have a final version including that info file as well. And yeah, thank you for watching this video till the end. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to support more stuff of what I've been doing, obviously this project in particular was a group effort. I was the project manager for the whole thing. I was integrating all of the scenes, explaining the architecture to everyone, but a lot of the groundwork was not, like, the most impressive code wasn't made by me. Gigabytes did a lot of great stuff. Gasman did a lot of great stuff. Super Rogue, Sule, those were the people that did the main juice of the thing. I was the guy who put it all together, and I contributed bits and bobs, made sure that, we are We are 2 weeks off from delivering an entry. We have 0 music ready. Maybe someone would like to start doing music now immediately, please. You know, cracking the whip when the deadline became close. That was mostly my job. And yeah, finding replacements if we didn't have enough time to do the stuff that we needed to, that we wanted to do initially. So I was mostly in charge of global direction. I was the one who had the concept. I was the one who put the scenes in that particular order. But you know, I was always open to comments from people as they were checking the different previews and stuff. But yeah, what I was saying, I have a Patreon that supports all the different things that I do, including demo making, including these videos going through the different stuff related to the demo scene. So if you want to keep contributing for me doing these things full time, you could go to patreon.com/psenough, donate whatever you can afford, 5 euros, 10 euros, 2 euros, 1 euro, you know, whatever you feel is welcome for the enjoyment factor and the knowledge that you got out of the videos that I put out on my YouTube channel and the other things that I do for the demo scene and not just the demo scene. So yeah, please consider donating if you haven't and you enjoyed the work that I've been doing. And yeah, other than that, hope to see you at Inércia Demoparty 2023, because I'm not really planning to travel to any other demo party this year. Don't have budget for that. But yeah, I'll see you around. Next video, I'll keep doing the demo scene report videos monthly. So bye bye everybody. Have a great day. Take care.